Do you want to leave an inheritance for your children's children? Do you want to know how to help your children become financially literate and have financial superpowers that they are no longer teaching in schools? Well, then this is the episode for you.
Hi, accredited investors. Hey, I'm so excited. We got a new deal right now. It's a 46 unit building, brick, solid brick, in the race horse capital of the world, Lexington, Kentucky. Rents on this thing, they're 15% below what the market rate is around it. I know because we own several buildings in the area. We're buying this one 15% less. To learn more, all you have to do is go to homeinvest.com or click on the description down below. Inside the description, you'll see a link down there. Remember, always consult with a tax advisor, a financial planner, or attorney before making any investment decisions. Having said all that, all you have to do is go to homeinvest.com or click on the link that you'll find down in the description down below. Thanks, God bless. Enjoy the show.
If you're new to the show, my name is Steve Warner. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer, and I'm joined by Nate Armstrong, the CEO and founder of Home Invest. This is purpose-driven passive profits, and our whole point here is to help you be great stewards of what God has given you, following the principles laid out in Matthew 25. All right, Nate, let's jump into it. Financial literacy is no longer being taught in schools, or maybe it was never actually being taught. We don't really know, but we have gone on a mission. We got to speak to a school in Denver about 2 weeks ago and share the message of financial freedom. We shared with the youth there. To back this up, though, Warren Buffett has also recently come out and said that we need to really be teaching financial literacy to our youth. So with that being said, what are the three main things that kids need to learn to have a great financial foundation?
Steve, you want to tackle all of them at once? Or you want to do one at a time?
Let's do one at a time.
Okay, so let's talk vision. Vision for a minute. So, Steve, I'll give what I think for vision that's important, and I'd love to hear your perspective too. Because let's face it, guys, if you guys don't know Steve yet at a deep level, this guy's amazing. This guy's raised more capital for real estate investments than most people ever dream of in their life, because he really understands and knows how to connect with people from a vision perspective. So, what is vision? The Bible says, "Without vision, people will perish." What is it? It really means something, casting a better future, casting whatever you want out of this world, whatever your plans and aspirations are. You have to be able to get up and think about that every single day. Nowadays, TikTok, Instagram, all of these platforms, they capture our attention. If you go to a restaurant and look around at people, even husbands and wives on dinner dates, notice what they're doing for half of the dinner. They're usually checking their phone. They're checking their notifications. They want that dopamine hit from someone clicking the like button on the photo that they posted. That is not okay, in my opinion, but it is reality. It is what it is. So in order for us to be able to teach our kids how to do this the right way, we need to teach them how to cast a vision for their future, how they can program inside themselves every single day, whatever their vision is. They read it out loud. They write it on their whiteboard. There's a lot of different ways that we can do this, but they need to be able to have that in front of them in their foresight at all times, every single day. It's not enough to do a New Year's resolution. Notice the gyms. People do New Year's resolutions every single year, and the gyms fill up the first week or two of January. But by the first week of February, the gyms are empty again. New Year's resolutions don't work. Instead, a vision is cast every single day. Steve, what do you think?
So I have a couple thoughts on this. I think everybody should have a vision. Where I see the big challenge with our youth is their vision is, I want a Lambo, I want a mansion, I want all these big things, and I'm just going to get it because it's just going to happen for me. Where the disconnect is, okay, I'm great, have those big dreams. I had big dreams when I was young and they definitely drove me. But the challenge is, let's chunk that down a little bit. What's the first step towards that? You don't just go, oh, I'm going to have $1 million. I'm going to go buy a Lambo. Okay. How do we actually set a vision that, one, is something that is really fleshed out, right? Like, where do you want to live? What kind of house? What kind of money does that take? Okay, now let's go backwards a little bit. This is something that was asked of me, right? Somebody asked me this, actually. You guys know my history. I was in school to be an art teacher, and I started doing real estate. And somebody at the time asked me, they were like, well, do you think you can afford that on an art teacher's salary? At the time, an art teacher was making $34,000 a year. And when I looked at the lifestyle that I wanted versus that, I was like, oh man, I need to up level my game. We need to show that to teenagers, and teenagers are smart. If you say, okay, you want this, let's figure out what that costs. Now let's backtrack it. How much, like, what job do you need, or what do you need? And then this actually plays into a piece that we're going to get to later, developing passive income streams that can make that much money for you. Because if your money is $20,000 a month, and then you hit that with passive income, you reach financial freedom. But most teenagers have never had that talk because, to be honest, most adults don't think that way either.
Beautiful, Steve. How
So
about
that's, go ahead, Nate.
I was just going to say, I love that. Why don't we keep going? How about you do habits first?
Okay, so the next piece to this, once you have the vision, is the habits. So Nate laid out one habit: revisit your vision every single day. I have my vision in my shower. I have my vision in my car. I have my vision on a whiteboard in my living room. I have I have it all over the place. And it's not just like written out, right? It's on my phone, but I also have pictures that represent it around because I know that that will get into my brain. I talk about it all the time. Those are habits around vision. But what are other habits that you need? Well, one of them is a budget and how you spend money. Another budget that you need is delayed gratification. It is real easy to become emotional and say, I want something, and then just go out and spend money on it, right? Oh, I really want this, and money will come to me. Another habit that you want to have is being self-reliant. Okay, I want something. I'm going to figure out how to get that instead of asking other people for it. The habits that we have around money are usually formed by the time we are 15 to 16 years old. And they come from our parents. If parents are a little bit off, then the kids might be a little bit off. But if kids see a different way to do it, then they will enact those new habits. The key is to put those habits in front of people. Nate, I know you've done really well with Bianco on this, and I know you have a lot of thoughts on the habits that drive kids. What do you think are the good habits that kids need to have?
Yeah, well, the Harvard research study that came out on habits, it said that kids, just as you said, by middle adolescent age, middle teenage age, they have these habits formed. So our son is 10 right now, and we're trying to get ahead of that. The scarier thing in that study that came out was that it's not just habits in life or eating and things like that. It's actually money habits. Think about that. Most people have their money habits formed before they turn 16 years of age. So we got a whole bunch of 16-year-old minded individuals running financial institutions, running bodies of government, your mayor, your city council member, your HOA board president. The majority of money habits are developed before we ever become an adult. So we're trying to get ahead of it with Bianco. We're trying to make sure that he understands the value of money. One of the things we do in our house, it's small, but it's a big needle mover, in my opinion, is that whenever he brings something to us and says, I want this, I want to have this, I need a new bike, I need to do this, we always say, great. How are you going to do it? How are you going to accomplish that? How are you going to make that happen? And so some of the things that Bianco has done, as an example, is he makes these little popsicles. He makes popsicles and sells them to grandma, grandpa, our neighbors, whoever he possibly can. I think grandma's his biggest customer at this point. Another time he made dill straws. If you've ever seen the dill plant, they have a hollow tube as the stem, and he decided to make sustainable organic dill straws and start selling them. So there's a lot of things that kids can do when they are put in a position to be creative. And so we try to do that with him. We try to say, well, hey, rather than us just giving it to him, we say, hey, how can you accomplish that? How can you do it? So that's what we're doing on that frontier.
Awesome. So habits wise, I think one of the biggest thing that affected me as a young kid was every Friday, my dad took me to the bank with him and I would deposit. So we had a budget, and the budget that was laid out for me growing up was 80-10-10. Live on 80%, 10% goes in long-term savings that you don't ever touch, and 10% goes to the church. And every week we would go to the bank and I would deposit into my savings account, And then we would go and I would draw up my tithe envelope and we would put the money for tithe in the tithe envelope. And then the 80% that I had left, my dad actually advised me and he said, maybe you should put like a third of that away. And that's your rainy day fund. When you want to do something, that's the money. Everything else you can go blow on candy, you can do whatever you want with, but just tuck a little bit back. And now, as an adult, I do something very similar. I will put a good chunk of my money, usually about 20-25% of my income, into a short-term fund. And that pays for my vacations and that pays for anything nice that's expensive that I need. If I need a new computer or something like that. I also have all the money that goes towards rent and all of those things, but then I also have money that goes to charity and I have money that goes to the church. But by having that habit installed in me when I was young, it allowed me to live into that now. And I think that is one of the big things. So let's talk about budget. That actually does bring up our next topic. Nate, what do you think of when it comes to budget? And what do you think is a budget that kids need to hear about?
Yeah, you can't spend more than you make is the simple principle. And I know that a kid, you might listen to that and say, well, kids not making anything. Well, some parents do allowances. We don't do allowance. We don't believe in allowance. But some other kids get money from birthdays, they get money from whatever it might be. And it's at that point, it's not every single week, some weekly paycheck. It's whenever money touches their hands, they have to learn how to budget that money. So some things that we do whenever we plan out Bianco's birthday party, he always hosts a big triathlon and he involves a whole bunch of kids in the community and things like that. We let him partake in the actual budgeting of it. If he says, hey, this year I want to be able to advertise more, I want more flyers, I want this, I want that. We say, okay, great. Let's put it on the spreadsheet. Let's figure out how much that costs because we have to make sure we have the budget for it. So we just try to involve him and expose him to it. We have Steve, you and I have a mutual investor named Juan. He's a gentleman that's done very well in his life. In his country, he's from South America. In his country, he's definitely in the top 1%. I asked him the question, hey, what do you think about budgeting? What lesson would you teach to your children about budgeting and about money and all that kind of stuff? If there's just one. And he said, well, Nate, and he thought about this really long, really hard. He said, Nate, the one thing I want my kids to always know is that when it comes to spending money on something, before you write that check, before you swipe that credit card, you have to have something else that you've already invested into that will pay for the thing you're about to buy. So as an example, if my son wants to buy a car, that car might cost $300 per month on some kind of payment. I want him to go invest that money first into a piece of real estate like a rental house, or invest money into a stock, a bond, whatever it is, something that's going to pay for it. Maybe it won't pay for it all up front, but it will pay for it over a period of time. Buy something that's an asset that produces income first, and then go buy the thing that you wanted to buy. I thought it was pretty solid advice. I know that there's other people that echo that in different faucets, in different ways that they want to echo it, but I thought it was really good coming from a father to his kids.
I think that it is hugely powerful. I know there are people who think that that might be a big challenge, but if you can get your kids thinking that way, maybe they'll save up and buy the property even as they're going through life. I know just investing well, one of the habits that I know affected me a lot was just saving 10%. No one's going to miss 10% of your money coming in. I don't care how little you make or how much you make. 10% goes away into a long-term savings account that you never see. You're never going to miss it. Nothing is going to change about your lifestyle, but you will wake up one day with a good amount of money in the bank. And if you're buying some passive income with it or active real estate that puts money in there as well, that pot will grow and grow and grow. And then you come from what is called a safe harbor foundation, where you have some wealth, you have money. If you lost your job, it wouldn't be the end of the day. If an emergency happened, you have it. Like, you just come from a much different mindset place, which is what we are trying to get to. The last piece that I want to cover here, which kind of encompasses all of this and what you just said, Nate, is practicing delayed gratification. So delayed gratification means that you can be a little bit uncomfortable right now and you're not reacting to the emotion. Oh, I want that thing, I must go buy it. Maybe you should sit and be uncomfortable for a little bit. And if you still want it a couple weeks from now, a month from now, then you go buy it. But you work for it to pay for it up front instead of putting it on a credit card or spending money that you don't have or borrowing it from somebody. Delayed gratification is one of the mindset pieces that I think encompasses all of this: vision, habits, and budgeting. Nate, any comments on that?
I think you nailed it. You nailed it right there. Just it's literally delaying the gratification. Think about it for a while. I love how you said it, man.
Yeah, and honestly, it makes it much sweeter if we get in the habit of just buying whatever we want right now when we want it. It kind of, nothing is special anymore. But when you think about something, I know you guys, anyone who knows me pretty well, knows I have a Corvette right now that I saved up for more than 5 years to get. And like every time I tucked a little bit of money away, I would think about it. Hey, I'm going to buy that car. I'm going to buy that car. And then when I got the car, I was really excited about it. And I also still really like having the car because I think of what the path needed, the habits, the daily routine, the monthly putting money away to get that car makes it that much more impactful. So those are the thoughts around helping our youth. If you guys are hearing this and you would like Nate and me to come and speak at your school, maybe to a PTA or to a group of kids anywhere, this is one of our missions. We would love to help you out. You can respond to any of the emails that come from us, or you can reach us through homeinvest.com. We would love to come share our presentation with your youth and help them. It's a workshop style experience where we get them involved, we get them dreaming, kind of doing the things that we talked about here, painting their numbers, backtracking it, coming up with a budget, and building the habits that will help them have a solid financial foundation for their future. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to Purpose Driven Passive Profits. Be great stewards of what God has given you, and we'll see you next time.